Hi, welcome back to Burning River Bushcraft. Today we're going to be making a sheath out of PVC for the Bodark Tool brush parang. So there are a lot of large blades, so machetes and parangs that have less than the desirable sheaths. So this technique's going to work for any of those. If you're using a Tramontina or you just got one out of the local garden center, this sheath is going to work just fine. The heavy parang, or I'm sorry, this is the brush parang from Bodark Tool. This is the one we're going to be focusing on today. I'm going to show you a couple different techniques in other videos, but this PVC is pretty inexpensive and pretty easy to work. So if this is the kind of thing you like to see, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment in the comment box, and ring the bell to be notified of my latest videos. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Burning River Bushcraft. I also teach outdoor classes at outdoorcore.com. So if you don't have the brush parang, but you kind of like the looks of it and you want to make exactly the same sheath I'm making today, stick around to the end of the video and I will give you a discount code for 15% off your next order. As well as the brush parang, we also have the camp. I think they call this the camp parang. This is the Bowie style. And then there's the heavy parang as well. So I'm going to be focusing on strictly the longest one today because I have other plans for the shorter two. So jumping right into the content, we're going to be making these sheaths out of PVC, not Kydex. So this is going to be a poor man's version of Kydex. It's not going to work as well, but it's going to work just fine and make a very functional sheath, especially for a large chopper. One of the reasons I'm not going with Kydex, even though I do mix Kydex sheath, is I don't have any Kydex this long. So this is like a 20-some inch parang. So I think the largest sheet I have is maybe a foot, maybe 14 inches. And working with Kydex the way I do, I like to use a press, and my press isn't that long either. So this is going to work just great with minimal tools, and it'll work for any size blade that you have. So this first pipe is the lightest one, and that's what I'm going to attempt to make the sheath out of first. This is a piece of drain tile, and you can see it's got perforated holes in it. This is the least desirable color, so I would prefer something white, black, a gray would even be better. But this teal color is the absolute worst, but we're going to Krylon it, so it's all going to be good when we're done. So next up, again, this is a heavier PVC pipe. I'm not a plumber. I don't know if this is a Schedule 80. This is something I just happen to have around the house. This diameter is great. This is all black. The color is awesome. And as far as durability goes, this is going to be super durable because it's so thick. But this pipe is like really heavy. This is not something I want to make a lightweight sheath with. If you were more concerned with durability, or if you made one out of a lighter material in the past and you did not have the longevity that you were after, then I would definitely upsize it and get a heavier walled pipe. So for the last one that I've got at hand, this is electrical PVC. So this is electrical conduit. I think this is a 2-inch piece. No, this is a 3-inch piece. So again, color's great, durability's awesome. Only issue is the wall thickness. If for some reason this light drain tile does not work for me, this is what I'm going to go with next. So as far as sourcing this material, you're looking for a pretty small piece. The blade on the brush parang is about 17 inches. I'm going to cut it about 18 to 19 inches. So you're looking for a scrap piece. So if you see any type of construction, you can possibly go to a construction site after dark. You can possibly ask them. That's probably your best bet. And they're going to have cutoffs. They're going to have pieces. It's just something they're going to have to pick up and throw away. I would look for that before I would go buy a big 10-foot stick. Some of the PVC is available in shorter pieces at some of the home improvement stores. You're usually paying a premium. It's usually going to be worth your while to buy a 10-foot stick, store it away for other projects. So you can cut this stuff with a hacksaw. You can cut it with an abrasive rod saw. Sawzall would work. I'm going to be using an angle grinder. So I've got a wafer blade to make the cut, and then I've got a sanding wheel that I'm going to switch out to clean up the cuts when we're done. So now I can check the length, and I'm good on that. And I'm going to take that angle grinder again, and I'm just going to connect the dots down these holes. So I'm going to cut all the holes out and give myself a straight section to work with. Now this is available without holes, and you can get a lot smaller pipe and still cover the parang blade. But again, I'm just working with just junk that I've got sitting around. I'm just going to give it a little bit more heat and then just work this down using my vise. Now, I've got a face vise on this bench right here. If you don't have one, you probably need one. This bench actually, this is something I did on a course on Outdoorcore, so I teach that course. This has got a stand-up shave pony. It's got a face vise. It's pretty cool. So if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description below. But I'm going to continue to apply heat, and I'll just slow squeeze this in my vise. If you did not have a vise like this, just 2 boards, one on top, one on bottom. Just heat it and press down. So here's where we're sitting right now, and the retention is actually pretty good. So we're going to fine tune the retention with a heat gun once this thing looks closer to a sheath. I got slightly aggressive with it. I started to rip a little bit here, but whatever. This will work just fine for its intended purpose. So I'm going to let this cool down a little bit, and then we're going to shape out the sheath, and we're actually going to put this together with rivets. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this blade and we're going to estimate. So the fold side is on the bottom here, and we're going to give it a decent margin, and we're going to make a measurement to the deepest point, which is going to be, oh, that looks like about 2.5 inches. And I'm going to give it probably about a 1/2 inch margin. A 1/4 inch would be enough if this was a sewed project, but because we're going to be using rivets, I'd rather have a little bit extra. So from the fold side, I went ahead and marked off 3 inches. And I'm just going to connect the dots here. Now I'm going to make this cut all the way through both sides with the angle grinder. So this is a pretty decent fold right here, and if it wasn't, I would just fix it real quick. But it's not bad, and I'm going to just eyeball. So you can see this thing starting to take shape now, and you can see we're going to heat this up and actually form it to the blade itself, but we're not quite there yet. What I'm going to do next is just account for the belt loop for this. So a couple different things you could do. If this was flat, if this was normal Kydex, you would account for the loop first, but because I just cheated and made my curve, I'm going to heat up just the top portion of this, fold it back enough to get 2 rivets in. You could also take a longer piece of this same PVC and fold it over. I don't like rigid belt loops, so particularly on a parang like this, I'm going to have this one mounted kind of cross draw. So I don't want it fixed. I don't want this thing where I can't sit down in the woods. This is definitely not going to be comfortable. This is always attached to my belt like a normal knife sheath would be. So I'm just getting back now on the PVC pipe sheath. I was going to rivet this together with regular hand set rivets. That's what I use for my Kydex sheaths anyway. However, this stuff is significantly thicker than the Kydex I'm used to, so my rivets weren't long enough. So what I had to do is I had to go shopping and I had to get some pop rivets. So these rivets are about 3/8. So if you're shopping at home, a bigger diameter, I think this is maybe 1/8 inch, but this is about a 3/8 inch long rivet. So we're going to go ahead and pop rivet this together, but first we're going to attach our belt loop. So you're going to have plenty of scrap in this project. So take a scrap piece of your PVC and then a scrap piece of leather, and just make sure you have the proper length rivets. So we're going to go through a single thickness of the PVC when we attach the belt loop. And I've got, this is probably a medium grade leather or a medium weight leather. It's maybe 6 ounce. And this piece is like a foot long. So I want my belt loop to be at least 2 inches, 2.5 inches, something like that. And I kind of marked out where I wanted to go approximately. So it's just a matter of making sure I've got plenty of room on the belt. That's about 2 1/8, 2 1/4. So right about here, I'm going to center this up. Because I made a test piece already, I got the correct drill bit for the rivets. So go ahead and practice it up before you screw up the piece that you've got the most time into. So I'm just going to drill some holes in here, and then we'll pop rivet it together. See here, the rivets protrude a little bit on the inside, so you are going to be marking the blade slightly. This is plastic and these are aluminum, so it is softer than the blade steel itself. It's not going to damage anything, but it is going to scratch it up. So I would not be making a PVC riveted knife sheath for a skookum or something that I've waited for 1,000 days for. But for a good working tool like we're going to be using it for, this is going to be absolutely perfect. But just to make this a little easier, a little nicer, I've got a longer, I think this is probably a 12-inch mill bastard file. And we don't want to file these all the way down because this is what's actually holding this leather into place. So I'm going to take this down slightly. So use your judgment. I want them nice and level. I don't want any high spots. I'm going to go for, I guess, a rounded off edge more than taking it all the way down to the base of the PVC. So you can line up your blade onto your sheath and kind of see where your margin's going to be. And you can make this oversized. This would work for multiple blades of approximately the same length. And I'm not going to go crazy with this thing. The rivets are stronger than you think they are, so I'm going to space them out fairly well. And I'm going to call that good. You're actually weakening the plastic if you're spacing these rivets out too close. And again, if you get too close to the end, then you're weakening the structure of the sheath itself as well. So I'm inset maybe 1/4 inch or so, and my spacing is about 4 inches. You can make this look as neat or as rough and made in the field as you choose to. But this is good for me. I'm going to go ahead and drill these out, and then we'll rivet the whole thing together. So here it is all riveted together, and you can definitely use a vise or something to compress this a little bit. Heat would work, obviously, because that's how we got our form anyway. But a vise just kind of holds it together until the rivets go into place. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to heat this whole thing up again until it's pretty darn soft. And then I'm going to use the parang as a reamer, essentially. I'm just going to use that to go ahead and just open up this sheath to its final interior dimension. So I've got to stress that this is a tight fit. I took it inside just because I don't have power out here, and it's easier than dragging an extension cord out just to see me heat up a piece of plastic. But this is the fit you want. It goes in, it snaps. It's actually pretty decent retention, but I had to heat this thing up entirely and then stick it in as far as I could, pound it on the ground, and hammer it off. But this is the fit you're going to be looking for, and don't give up until you get it. This front end here, I actually took a screwdriver when it was pretty hot and kind of opened it up and rounded it a little bit. So you do have to work it. It is achievable, and you're going to get a great fit if you take your time and do it right. So this next step really depends on you. I've got this edge here, and it's not exactly perfect. So you could hit this with a file. You could leave it like it is. You could hit it with a sander. But all we're going to do is we're going to level this up. We're not going to really remove a lot of material and get down to where these rivets are. But this is kind of coarse. At least deburr it. If not, clean it up and make it look a lot better. This is what we're looking for. This is nice and rounded. And remember, power tools are your friend with this, so don't struggle with it. Now, it's awesome. This is a cool sheath that costs scrap. It didn't cost much at all. But the color obviously is something to be desired. This looks like a 1960s fishing boat or something. And I don't want to spray paint the leather. I'm going to spray paint the exterior of the sheath. So I suppose I probably should have planned ahead and dyed the leather black if I wanted it black, but the two-tone looks not bad. So I'm going to just take a string. I'm going to tie this string up inside the loop. And then I'm going to use painter's tape to mask off the leather. So you're not fooling anybody. This is plastic. This is not Kydex. This is not to be confused with a Kydex sheath. But all things considered, I would rather have it nice and black and moderately undetectable as opposed to a piece of teal PVC that looks like I picked up alongside the road. This is pop rivets, and these aren't really the proper rivets like I would use on Kydex. I would be very, very cautious just grabbing this sheath and pulling it out that way. So if these rivets pop through and the blade goes through, you know, your fingers are going to get the brunt of that. So to counteract that, I might put a little bit of glue down the edge of this, depending on how the rivets are holding up. Also, I think in this case, I'm going to wrap this in cordage. I've got a few other knife sheaths that I've done that too, and it looks nice. It's functional, and it definitely holds the sheath together better and just gives it another level of protection if these rivets were to go. So this is not going to make you throw away all your Kydex sheaths and start making all of your knife sheaths out of plumber's pipe. But I didn't have a piece of Kydex long enough for this large bow dart parang. So this is going to be my go-to sheath for any type of hard work sheath. This is not nice at all. This is 100% functional. You're not gonna care in the slightest bit that it sits in your truck and maybe something sits on it and it gets a little wavy. Put it back in the sun, let it warm up, it'll straighten out. This is bull strong. It's safe for you. It's safe for the blade. The retention's great, and it costs pennies. You can build this just with scrap material. Till next time, this has been Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft.